Hello everyone. Today I'm doing Form 4, Chapter 3, 3.1, 3.2, because that comes out for your exam. I'll try to make this quick, so that means I will not joke as much. I'll try to be as serious as possible, but you know me. All right. Every time I joke, just go drink a glass of water. So, kita mula dengan 3.1, nasionalisme di negara kita sebelum Perang Dunia. If you remember in Chapter 2, kita ada golongan ulama. We call them kaum muda yang pergi ke Timur Tengah dan datang balik ke sini, and then they release majalah atau makalah seperti Al-Imam untuk menggerakkan nasionalisme di sini, tapi dikawal melalui enactment Undang-Undang Islam 1904. So whoever wants to mencetak, mengedarkan tulisan, that means you want to sampaikan apa-apa message dan sebagainya, kalau berkaitan dengan agama, which is what the kaum muda did lah. Remember, they believe in the gerakan Islam dan gerakan Pan-Islamisme. So obviously mereka tidak dapat menyebarkan maklumat mereka, terutamanya dalam NNMD, Negeri-Negeri Melayu Bersekutu. So they are mostly just active in negeri-negeri selat. So British memperkenalkan dua badan penyiasat iaitu JSJ, alright, and BSP. So just remember lah, alright, BSP here is not Bandar Sejarah Putra. Joke boleh. Okay, drink a glass of water. Mengawal gerakan Islamia. That's a lame joke though. That shouldn't count. Speed out the water, right? Okay, so kebangkitan Islam menyebabkan British berwaspada terhadap gerakan Pan-Islamisme. Memang betul, Sokok Janggut dia bangkit menentang di Pasir Putih, Kelantan, partly inspired by fatwa yang dilaksanakan, dikenakan, diumumkan oleh Turki Umayyah. Kerana Turki Umayyah pada masa itu dianggap sebagai pelindung umat Islam. And the reason because Empire Umayyah ni, they have been around for 600 something years lah, right? 600 at this point, 600 plus. So they are actually already a weakening empire, all right? Because an empire, they will rise, they will fall. So 600 years is a very, very long time. Because sebenarnya sudah agak lama. Tapi because they control the land, which they control a lot of land, including Hijaz lah. So you got Mecca, Madinah. So that's the holy land for the Muslims. Jadi Empire Umayyah ni, right, is looked up very highly by Muslims all over the world. So Tok Janggut juga, of course, he was against the issue cukai yang kita dah belajar masa tingkatan 3. I will move past this lah. Tingkatan 3, I already explained to you about the cukai system. So kita akan teruskan kepada, so gagal dan sebagainya. Kewujudan undang-undang mengawal kebebasan bersuara, penerbitan berpersatuan dan kawalan ketat. This one menyebabkan kesedaran kebangsaan tidak meluas dalam agbam Melayu sebelum Perang Dunia Kedua. For a long time lah, right, the British control, they had a very tight, grip on things. So even in the early 40s, I think, even after 40s, alright, after World War II juga, the moment you criticize British a little bit, right, kadang-kadang mereka akan just chop you as communist, and then they will just lock you up. So you have to be very careful even at that time. So kita akan move on kepada 3.2, Perang Dunia. So Perang Dunia pertama berlaku pada tahun 1914, berakhir pada 1918. And kita kena ketahui faktor-faktor kenapa ia berlaku lah. So there were a few, there are some backstories that you need to be aware of first. That so the first thing is that kita ada Pakatan Bertiga lawan dengan Kuasa Tengah lah, right? So you got Kuasa Tengah and Pakatan Bertiga. Perancis dengan Jerman memang dia enemies, okay, for a very long time. They had a war in 1870. Okay, in fact, Germany became a country after winning that war. So they have been enemies for quite some time, and I believe some French territories have been taken over by the Germans. So dendam memang ada kat sana. And then the British and the French are in okay terms, which is very surprising because like 100 years, they had a war for 100 years, Now they are friends again. So that's politics, There is no permanent enemies, just permanent goals. Germany, dia mempunyai pakatan dengan Austria-Hungary. Austria-Hungary is also an empire, alright? Empire maksudnya you menjajah ataupun you control negara lain yang orang-orang dia lain bangsa dengan kamu. Which you probably think, well, teacher, that's every country. Every country got different what do you call it? Religion, different races and all that. But that's not what it means. Empire usually is secara paksa lah. Lebih kurang lah, right? And you control them because you're way more powerful than them. So Austria-Hungary is an empire, was an empire. And Austria-Hungary was quite big. But the problem is, just like the Ottoman Empire, Uthmaniyah, they are also crumbling. Just so you know, Russia is also an empire that is crumbling. So all this will come into a head. World War I, all these problems will be solved. I mean, not solved. All right, probably you can argue that it got worse. Jadi, Austria-Hungary and German, pakatan. Perancis dengan Britain, kind of pakatan. They are at least on good terms. Perancis dengan Rusia pun macam ada persefahaman. They know that Germany dah semakin kuat, jadi kalau ada masalah, kita boleh berganding bahu. Because Germany seems to be probably the most technologically advanced country, even in education, alright, in all of Europe, supposedly lah, alright. It's very hard to measure these kind of things. And Turki Umayyah, dia bermusuh dengan Rusia. Okay, so before that, Rusia, dia sokong Serbia. Because Russia and Serbia actually, they consider themselves the same race, orang Slav lah, right? And if you look at the map, yeah, kawasan-kawasan ni, Romania, Serbia, alright, Greece, semua kawasan ni sebenarnya was part of Ottoman Empire, you know. So Ottoman Empire was even bigger than what you see in the map over here. It actually stretches out all the way up to, I think Timur Tengah lah, right, beyond Arab Saudi. So this area here used to be part of Empire Umayyah, tapi kerana Ottoman Empire kalah kepada Rusia dalam peperangan, this was around 15 years back, I think. Alright, sebelum perkara ni berlaku, jadi semua negara-negara ni, right, Romania, Serbia and all that, right, they are lebih mesra kepada Rusia. So walaupun Rusia dapat kalahkan Ottoman Empire, rather than conquering this area and annexing them, is kind of like they give them independence. I have to read more about this. It's kind of interesting. Jadi orang Serbia ni ada yang masih ada di kawasan ini. So there are still a lot of Serbians within the area of the Austria-Hungary, because remember, Serbia as a country only existed for quite some time, and then turns out beyond the border in Austria-Hungary there are still a lot of Serbs. Alright, so permusuhan ni memang agak kuat juga lah. So you can see right now, this is a very tense time. Okay, there's a lot of tension that one single bad thing happening can just cause everything to explode. So but dia akan tanya ini dalam soalan essay lah. It's very likely they will ask apakah faktor berlakunya Perang Dunia Pertama, and usually they will ask 6 marks out of you. So if you want to answer and you want to get 6 marks, you have a few choices, but I would recommend you remember all of these 3. Persaingan kuasa imperialis, Pakatan Ketenteraan, dan krisis rantau bakat. Remember at least remember these lines, right? Because each of these is worth 1 mark. So you say, faktor berlakunya blah 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 ialah persaingan kuasa imperialis. You get 1 mark already. 1 out of 6. Okay? So if you want to get another mark, here got 1 sentence, right? 1, 2, and then 3. Each of these is worth 1 mark. That is how your sejarah punya syllabus marking is like. So actually, if you think, oh teacher, I want to memorize this, all right, and then memorize all of this, I get 4 marks already. Then I just remember a little bit of something else. I'd rather you remember the key points, persaingan kuasa imperialis, Pakatan Ketenteraan, because it will help you for paper 1 also. If you don't remember these keywords and all that, it could probably be counterproductive lah for objective paper, which is still very important. Jadi, persaingan kuasa imperialis, just remember at least 1 of them. But obviously, if you remember 1 already, just remember 2 or 3. Why not? Okay, so Pakatan Ketenteraan. So here, mereka bersaing untuk mendapatkan tanah jajahan. We learned this in Form 3 or so. The bigger your tanah jajahan, the higher your status. And this is what happened in, that's why British, dia datang ke Burma, India, come to us. And then there was a scramble for Africa in the late 1800s. Alright, mereka, they basically divided Africa. Okay, this one is for you, this one is for me, this one is for him, this is for her, whatever. So that was persaingan kuasa imperialis lah. Okay, terutamanya Perancis dengan Jerman. They have been enemies for a very long time. And just so you know guys, at this point right now, if I'm not wrong, their relationship is quite good. In fact, the reason why European Union exists is because these two decided to work together, and everyone is like, whoa! So after the 2 world wars, now they're back together. Again, no permanent enemies, just permanent goals. So if no permanent enemies, that means no permanent friends also lah. So Pakatan Ketenteraan, like I said already, you have Kuasa Tengah dan Pakatan Bertiga. They write over here like this lah. The thing is, the Germans, Austria-Hungary, and Turki Umayyah lah, right? Sebenarnya Turki Umayyah ni, they are just joining because they hate the Russians. Because they lost to Russia a couple of times. They did defeat Russia also the 100 years before that. I have to read more about this Turkish Russo-Turkish war. So this Empire Umayyad, they are always going to be the enemies of Russia lah. Okay, so Pakatan Ketenteraan, and then finally we have this is the thing that I said tick everything over. Pemusuhan Austria-Hungary dengan Serbia. Remember, because Serbia before this was conquered by Ottoman, freed by the Russians, but certain Serb people are still in Austria-Hungary. Jadi Austria-Hungary menuduh, not saying menuduh, this really did happen. Serbia menghasut rakyat Austria berketurunan Serb berjuang membebaskan diri daripada pemerintahan Austria-Hungary. To make you understand this better, right? Just imagine, guys, if let's say you guys know America, right? So America is they are bordering Mexico. And you know, and even if you don't know, I'll just tell you, there are quite a few Mexicans in America right now. The problem is actually, I don't know if they have already become naturalized Americans. Contoh lah, if you go to WWE, Santos Escobar, I think Rey Mysterio is American now. I'm actually not sure. I'm not sure. But imagine if, let's say, all these Latin people, they are not Americans, they are still Mexicans, you know. Is Selena Gomez Mexican? I think she's. Penelope Cruz is Spanish, right? Okay, so either way, all these people, all right, cuba bayangkan if Mexico tell all these people, hey, bangkit menentang America, all right, and then join back with us. So you know lah, right? A lot of these Mexicans probably are in Texas, you know, the southern area bordering Mexico. That's where the problem will start off. Obviously, America will not add this. Imagine if you're America, imagine if you're Donald Trump. This is unacceptable. So eventually you start to have a war lah. All right, so we have this Serb nationalist lah. Nationalist Serb, maksudnya mereka nak membentuk negara Serbia yang memang terdiri daripada bangsa dia. So some of them are still, according to them, stuck in Austria-Hungary punya border. So kemuncak krisis Balkan ialah pembunuhan Archduke Franz Ferdinand. Alright, Franz Ferdinand, which is also a good Brit rock band. He's only 19 years old, and he wasn't given a death penalty. You know, you'll be surprised. He killed the son of a king. Technically, he killed the son of the king, the next king, and he wasn't given like the death penalty because he was too young, so they couldn't try him under like the adult law, something along those lines. So it's quite incredible that you buat benda macam ni pun, like honestly, if you try to do this somewhere else, I think they will immediately kill you already. I don't know lah, right? So because of this, okay, Austria-Hungary, remember one thing, you know, this Austria-Hungary, right, the king at that time is already very, very old. This Franz Ferdinand, right, Archduke Ferdinand, he's next to be in line, and the king, by the way, his father passed away in 1960. Which means 2 years after that, right, he would have been the king already. You know, this is literally not just killing the son of the king. This is literally like killing the king, because you know that's how important it was. Jadi Austria, Hungary, dia tanya German, hey, if I declare war on Serbia, is that okay? And Germany said, do what you want, we will support you. Similarly, Russia, dia ada, I already told you he has a good relationship with Serbia. Rusia dengan Serbia. So Serbia kata, if I'm being attacked, what will happen? Russia say, I will back you up. So that's why it became. that's what happens. German, this is skipping ahead. Yeah, Austria-Hungary dengan sokongan Jerman mengisytiharkan perang terhadap Serbia. So Russia, I will protect Serbia. And then Jerman, perang terhadap Rusia also. And then Perancis menyebelahi Rusia, because after all, the French don't like the Germans anyway. So in the end, we have this situation. Now, we haven't talked about Britain yet, right? Because this is what caused Britain to join in. You know, Britain actually don't want to join war. You probably think, teacher, war is awesome, blah, 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 because you play Command and Conquer or Civilization or whatever, or Romance of the Three Kingdoms. I just tell you guys this, nobody wants to go into war. If you're the president, you're the prime minister or whatever, you would never say, hey, let's go invade another country. Except for certain countries in the world right now. I'm not referring to anybody. So, Jerman mengisytiharkan perang terhadap Perancis yang menyebelahi Rusia dan menceroboh Belgium. Now, if you look at the map lah, right? So this is what happens. So France actually, they bordered Germany over here. Okay, so this is the border. Tapi the Germans decided to attack them, to give like a surprise attack. Daripada serang macam ni, because obviously the French, right, dia punya border kat sini sangat kuat. Dia ada banyak pertahanan, tapi dia tak ada pertahanan kat sini. They have very little defense over here because that's Belgium. Belgium is a country that is friendly to both France, Britain, and supposedly everyone. Even to Germany, you know. Jadi Germany, dia sebenarnya nak lalu Belgium saja tau. They just want to lalu Belgium and attack France on the other side. They didn't expect the Belgians to resist. Okay, so Belgium managed to slow down the Germans quite a lot to the point where the French was able to protect this side lah. Sepatutnya German nak attack the entire area tapi tak dapat lah. They call it the Schlieffen plan. But obviously it didn't work out. And the thing is, once they invaded Belgium, which is Britain's good friend, and Britain also want to protect Belgium kerana Belgium is kind of like the easiest way to attack Britain. So this is like the English Channel, which, you know, which is a direct attack. So jadi Britain pun terjebak masuk dalam peperangan ini. Okay, so that's your story. And obviously, yeah, obviously, because they don't like Russia. And during this time, this when Tok Janggut lah, dia nak bangkit menentang British. Tetapi masa tu, the British already made the Sultan sign, what do you call it, the undang-undang peperangan, whereby the money that we obtain over here will be given to the British. Mereka mengawal negara kita lah, ekonomi and all that. The money is used to, you know, support the British during the war. So Italy menyertai Perancis, Britain dan Rusia dalam Pakatan Bertiga. Actually at this point, right, there was one point actually over here in Marne where it seems like Germany would have defeated France, tapi they managed to fight back. Just so you know, guys, Paris is around here, you know. So Paris is the capital and it's around here. It was so close. Tapi mereka managed to fight back. Okay? And therefore, by that point, right, I think the favorites to win the war are the French, Russians, and the Brits. I say that, but the thing is, Germany actually defeated Russia. Okay? So Germany, dia dapat mengalahkan Rusia. Dan daripada itu, dia memaksa Rusia untuk menandatangani satu perjanjian they call Brest-Litovsk. So I will skip ahead. Brest-Litovsk, I guess here. Yeah. Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania, and Poland was given to Germany because Russia lost. Russia is over here. I cannot even draw them in the map. But these countries over here, all right, Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania, Poland is given to Germans. Now, this country over here, you probably wonder, ini negara ke? No, it's basically a province within Russia at that time. Okay, so Russia, they own this land, and there are different tribes of people, there are different races of people living over here, including Poland, and all of them were given to the Germans. Do you see how big patch of land this is? It's huge. Okay, tapi diberi kepada German. Well, Germany lost the war. So this was in 1916, by the way. They got this. But after they lost the war, semua negara ni diberikan kemerdekaan. So that is what we are going to cover into later. So Amerika Syarikat menyertai peperangan, and I think you already know why. I explained to this in class. So berakhirnya Perang Dunia Pertama. So Germany lost, Austria-Hungary and Ottoman Empire lost. I can tell you more about it, but basically Austria-Hungary and Ottoman Empire, crumbling empire that they are, was being hard carried by the Germans. As I mentioned in class, I don't know if I have by I don't know, but they said here that, and I will probably read out, fighting alongside Austria-Hungary is like being shackled, handcuffed to a corpse. That is that is what apparently one German general said. Just imagine how bad it is that fighting together with Austria-Hungary is like fighting with such a big dead weight attached to your body, you know. So anyway, persidangan damai Paris diadakan. This persidangan damai dia melibatkan Britain, France, and America mainly. There are other countries also, but these are the main three. So America, dia punya presiden masa tu Woodrow Wilson. Woodrow Wilson, if you look at this, right, it seems like he's a nice guy. But when I look at American history, he is mostly viewed as the worst president that America has ever had, like bottom 5. This list includes Trump and Biden and Obama, and you know, I'm not saying they are bad, I'm just saying. So deklarasi 14 perkara. So this 14 perkara though, basically it's like, oh, Serbia will have their own country. so and so will have their own country, so and so will have their own country. But most importantly, dia nak mengasaskan Liga Bangsa-Bangsa. Very important. So Liga Bangsa-Bangsa is going to be relevant for next chapter, but won't come out in your exam, right? So never mind. To those of you whose exam comes out, just pay attention in class lah. So penentuan nasib negara oleh rakyat means democracy. So this is a clear signal to Germany and Austria-Hungary, because both of them are empires. So you have kings at the top there. Kita akan pecahkan negara-negara ni. Ottoman Empire also, the emperor, right, the king, Sultan, they will be broken down, and negara-negara baru akan terbentuk dan nasib negara tu ditentukan oleh rakyat melalui demokrasi, through voting, because that's the American way. But just so you know, this 14 perkara Woodrow Wilson pissed off the French and the German leaders at that time. I think the French leader at the time was a guy called Clemenceau. And Clemenceau said, 14 perkara. And because he's Christian, right? Because French are mostly Catholics. So he said, even God only got 10 commandments. And this guy come up with 14 perkara. I can talk about that more like in class if you want to. So perjanjian Versailles ditandatangani antara Pakatan Bertiga dengan German. So German, right, honestly, they were not involved, you know. They were like, you know how sometimes it's like you want to collect your report card, and then your father, your parents are, right, meet up with your teacher. And then you have to sit there while your teacher tells your parents that, oh, budak ni selalu main handphone. No, this one is, let's say you're the kid, you know you messed up and you're outside of the class. Then inside there, you can hear people yelling. your parents went inside, your teacher is there. There's a lot of yelling. Okay, Germany, come inside. Come inside. Sign this from now on. No more handphone beyond 5 p.m. You're like, but I used to use it up to 5 p.m. So that's the size angkatan. It has decreased a lot. I think they went up to around 20,000. Germany has 70 million people, and they brought it down to 20,000. 20,000 troops to defend 70 million people is kind of crazy. So that's one of the things. And then they have to pay for reparations. Reparations maksudnya ganti rugi lah untuk peperangan tu. So if from now on you tak ada wang saku, in fact you have to pay your parents. Daddy, mommy, I'm not working. You're the one working. How does this make sense? Shut up and sign. So you have to sign. You lost the war, mah. Alright, so Germany, dia memang rasa tak puas hati because according to their beliefs lah, right, we didn't start the war. We didn't start the fire, right? The one who started the war is Austria, right? Austria is the one who declared the war. I just had to back them up. It's the perjanjian that I had. Spoiler, Hitler is technically Austrian. So that means the 2 world wars were actually caused by Austria. Anyway, just kidding. Austrians, don't hurt me. Okay. Hope you guys become more successful in World Cup and football or whatever. Jadi, sekarang ni, Jerman dia kena tanda tangani perjanjian Versailles. Bertanggungjawab terhadap kemusnahan akibat perang, which means pay a lot of money. Okay. Membayar pampasan kepada Pakatan Bertiga, mengehadkan saiz angkatan tentera. And this one, Pakatan Bertiga, I believe is just France and Britain, you know. I'm not sure if they have to pay the Americans or the Russians. I don't think they pay the Russians. Because like I said, the Russians already lost in 1916. And then they lost all that territory to the Germans. Okay, tapi eventually menyerahkan wilayah dan tanah jajahan. This tanah jajahan is mostly the one in Africa and also in the Pacific Islands. This country in Europe, dia dijadikan negara yang baru. So inilah kesan Perang Dunia Pertama. Keruntuhan pemerintahan beraja. Of course, German, they used to have Kaiser, gone. Austria-Hungary, they have I forgot what the king is called, you know. Archduke is the prince, the king, I guess the king, right? Functionally, dia raja. Russia, this one is because, to be honest, they lost to Germany also because of infighting. They had their the Bolshevik revolution at that time. So they couldn't defend their country well. And in the end, right, Lenin just said, just sign whatever. Just sign whatever and let us regroup. Okay. Empire Umayyad, Ottoman Empire also got split up a lot. So Kerajaan Republik Jerman didirikan Kaiser Wilhelm II terpaksa turun takhta. I already told you how he turun takhta in class. It's quite a funny story. Okay, Empire Austria-Hungary di bawah pemerintahan dinasti Habsburg berakhir. Dynasty Habsburg you've had a good run marrying each other with your cousins, which is yourself. Either way, Habsburg is sometimes known as the Alabama of Europe. So, no offense to Alabama. Berakhir apabila Timur pemberontakan di wilayah. Revolusi tercetus di Rusia menimbulkan pemerintahan Tsar Nicholas II. So it ended in 1916, and then in 1918 they just killed him off. killed the entire family. You probably have heard of this before. Dan kerajaan komunis pertama terbentuk di bawah pemimpinan Vladimir Lenin. Okay, so this Lenin is like, okay, from now on we will do voting, we will buat undi. So they did an undi, Lenin lost, so he said, no, this doesn't count. Then he took over the country. Very funny. So he took over from the king. He said, okay, kita akan ada demokrasi, we will do voting. Then when he lost, surprisingly, he decided that's not valid. Let's stop this, I'll take control. Power, right? Lenin, baby. So Khalifah Empire Umayyah Sultan Mehmed digulingkan dan kerajaan Turki bercorak republik diketuai. So that's why Turkey don't have a royal family. But this the Ottoman heirs, the prince and princess are still around. Okay, the prince and princess, the prince and princesses, princes and princesses are still around. It's just that they are orang biasa. Alright, just like in Sarawak, the Brooke family, the Brookes right now, they are still in Britain, but they're still they are orang biasa, they're still around. So this is a President Republic Turkey yang pertama. This is exactly around 100 years ago. It's around 1923. I forgot the exact year. So kemunculan negara baru, yes. So Austria-Hungary split itself up to Austria, obviously, Hungary. Bear in mind, by the way, Austria joined the World Cup in 1934. Hungary. Wait. Hungary got second place in 2 World Cups, you know. I forgot it's 1934 or 1938 and then 1954, you know, when they had Puskás. Okay, Czechoslovakia. Oh yeah, Czechoslovakia lost in the World Cup final, 1934. Hungary in 1938. Italy and Argentina. Yeah, I think so. Then Yugoslavia. Yugoslavia is it is not around anymore. They have split up further into Serbia, Croatia, and so forth. So Poland, Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania, these are the 4 countries that were formed because Germany got this from Russia and then Germany lost, so they all merdeka. So pemecah Empire Umayyah menyebabkan muncul negara baru seperti Lebanon, Syria, dan Iraq. The way these countries are split up also is quite controversial. Again, you want me to explain in class, I explain because I've definitely gone beyond 10 minutes. So I hope I've made this class at least entertaining to you. So kesan terhadap negara kita. So a lot of people say, Cikgu, kenapa we call it World War I? It doesn't involve the world, ma. That's such an arrogant thing to say. But no, we were somehow involved because our money was used by the British to fight the war. And they found a lot of armies like tentera yang mati, yang meninggal lah, right? And they are from other countries. For example, Germans, I think they found North Africans, you know, the Tunisians and Algerian people from North Africa because France at the time was in control of them. So they recruit all these soldiers from all these different places. So in the end, Africa was also involved, right? So Germany also has a territory in Africa. And Britain also, they brought a lot of the Indian soldiers, all right? So there were a lot of dead Indian soldiers during the World War also. So in the sense, technically, yes, it doesn't involve America. It doesn't involve South America, I guess, but North America is involved also. So you involve the North America, you involve Europe, obviously. You have Asia, and also you have Africa. So, as well as it be, right? What, you want to get penguins from Antarctica fighting? No, we don't fight wars with penguins. We just give them a tariff. You know, they're not gonna bully us anymore. Bagi meningkat kebangkitan orang Melayu, Raja-Raja Melayu diminta menandatangani peristihan perang yang menyokong dan memberi tak sedia kepada kerajaan British. Why? Again, because the Ottoman Empire say British are the enemy. So the Malays, the Muslims in this country at that time probably were confused. I'm Muslim, but I'm also Malay, and my king is Malay. He's also ketua agama Islam. So the king says support Britain. The Umayyah pula, pelindung umat Islam, they control, you know, Mekah, Madinah. It's like, no, British is the enemy. Must be a very confusing time. So berbagai undang-undang yang berkaitan dengan perang diluluskan oleh pentadbiran British. Kuasa PTB meletakkan negara Melayu di bawah undang-undang tentera jika memerlukan. Luckily, it did not happen lah, alright? Because this one is just in case if they lost, then we have to prepare to defend our place. Probably won't happen lah. So kemakmuran ekonomi dimanipulasi oleh British, wang hasil biji timah dan getah digunakan untuk biayai operasi British. Sorry, it a little bit too much. So guys, I don't know how long this took. Let me check the recording. 30 minutes. I tried to talk fast, but this took me 30 minutes. This is just how it is, right? I'm sorry, things don't go according to plan. So Thanks for being here with me at this point. Honestly, none of you are here. I'll see you guys in class. I hope this was helpful for your exam, and bye bye.